Hey, Mariner fans, welcome back to another episode of Monday Mojo, where we are tracking the Mariners' road to October. We've got a hell of an episode today. I'm Max Schwabe, here with my co-host Chris Silva and our producer Evan Barron, aka EPUB. Now, we're 3 days away from opening day. Big deal. We've made it. You guys should all be proud of yourselves. If you give a shit. We've got our 26-man roster, couple of hiccups, right? I think we might be without Kyle Lewis and we're without Jared Kelenic. We could have seen this coming, but Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, well, first things first, I think we're like 5 days away because it's on Thursday, opening day for spring training, and it's while we're recording this on Sunday. We do drop on a Monday,
but we're releasing Monday. No,
we're releasing Monday. Yeah, so but Monday,
so
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Shit, you're right. All right, no, okay. But then the other thing, we don't have our 26-man roster yet. We have like 3 other spots that we need to get out. So, but it's pretty much set. And Kyle Lewis looking like he's going to be out to start the year. It's not official. It's not guaranteed yet. So, anything is possible. Shout out Kevin Garnett. But this was a fun episode here. Got a lot to talk about with Goldy. And we're just kind of going to it's going to be a really brief introduction here. We're kind of just going to jump you guys into the beginning of where we started recording. We recorded yesterday on Saturday with Goldy, and we just kind of talked about what we planned on talking about in the interview. So we're going to give you guys kind of the in-depth look at what our preparation looks like and kind of how we get ready.
Chris, did we wing this interview or what?
We winged the hell out of it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I mean, don't get me wrong. We did our research. Of course. We got to cross some T's and dot some I's. But for the most part, I mean, every interview we've been doing, it's been winging. And that's because it's kind of just more of a natural flow.
Natural conversation. Exactly.
Yeah. And we don't want it to sound like an interview. We want it to sound like a conversation. And we think we did that very well here with Goldy, and he was awesome. Another open book like the rest of the guests that we've had, and it's been a lot of fun. But before we let you go and start letting you listen to that, we have big news, more followers, more listeners.
Breaking news. We got breaking news.
Breaking news. As we've mentioned in previous episodes, obviously we have listeners in the States, but we have listeners in Canada, and now I think it's Ontario, Canada, and some other province that they have up there. And then the UK, obviously, we've got 3 listeners there, and most recently, Das Deutschland. The Germans, we have 1 listener in Germany, and shout out to you. Appreciate you. If you're here,
mein Freund, vielen Dank, alles Gute aus Deutschland.
Yes, that is something that nobody else except for Max and our listener will understand. So appreciate it, Max. What'd you say?
I just said many thanks.
Many thanks. That's all you said.
Einfach Deutsch.
Well, you said like some other words.
You know what? That's between me and our listener.
All right. Well, I love it. Well, yeah, listener in Germany and listeners in UK and Canada. If you're listening to this, hit us up at Monday_Mojo on Instagram. We want to hear from you. Love that you're listening to us, especially from so far away. It blows our mind. It blows our mind that you're letting our voices come in your ears. Appreciate you, but it blows our mind. That's kind of all I had to say. Maxie, Evan.
Aaron Goldsmith is a hell of a guy. Obviously, if you're a Mariner fan, you know that if you're not listening to Dave Sims, you're listening to Aaron Goldsmith. He has quite a story to tell you. I think you guys are going to really like it. We don't necessarily go into, his thought on the team versus his, what we ended up talking about was his personal story, and he's got a hell of a story. And really nice guy all around. But again, we're 3 days away from the season. We'll have plenty to talk about in future episodes. That's all I have to say. Evan, anything from you, my friend, the producer, the great?
I just want to say, I think what's cool about this interview is that we get to see what the journey is like for a broadcaster. And, I think we see the journey that these baseball players go through, going through the minor leagues, and how much it's a grind. and they're just surviving to just make a living. And that's just like with the broadcast industry. And you're going to hear this with Aaron. I won't spoil it all, but I'm just going to say, like, he goes through such a major grind, and, to have somebody support him along the way is really cool to see. And yeah, we just kind of let it flow, and we were only expecting it to be like a half an hour, and just the way with how casual he was, it extended, an extra half an hour, and it's a, lengthy one that you guys really enjoy. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for you guys to hear this.
I mean, little intro on Aaron Goldsmith. He's from the Midwest. He born in Wichita. And, yeah, and he actually, and then for quite some time, it looks like he was over in St. Louis. So he grew up a Cardinals fan, and my understanding is Jack Buck, the father of Joe Buck, was the main commentator for the Cardinals, and that was kind of his Dave Niehaus at the time. So
really,
yeah. So I want to get to asking him.
Fuck yeah, ask him that. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get to asking him that, and how he kind of got affiliated with the Mariners.
Yeah, I'd like to ask him about like his broadcast, like, journey, and how he got to the MLB, because it's a pretty long grind as well. I don't think we didn't ask really Dave about his like broadcasting career, so it's something
Evan, you take that question.
Yeah, I can ask him about that.
Here, let's open up a Google Doc here, just so we're like.
Yeah, Evan, so what we're doing, by the way, in the middle of the interviews, Max and I are logged into a Google Doc, and that's kind of where we're communicating. And so so we'll send it to you as well, but that's where we're communicating. It's like, if you're like, I have a question, be like, hey, me next, or just like something simple.
Yeah, for sure. That's great, actually. Like, let me get that.
Here, we don't have a Slack channel yet.
I'll start a new one here.
Do Google
and invite you guys.
Yeah.
Monday Mojo, recorded on a Sunday, dropped on a Monday. That's my catchphrase, by the way.
No, this dude. Well, that's great, but this is a fucking Saturday morning, and
they don't know that. Shut up, Max. Nobody knows that except for us and Goldy. Monday Mojo, recorded on a Sunday, dropped on a Monday. That's my catchphrase.
And Evan, I was talking to Chris. I was like, Chris, what if you and I started doing a bit where we pretended like
that I owed him
$15 every episode, just like, hey, Mariner fans, welcome back to another episode of Monday Mojo, where we're tracking the Mariners road to October. I'm Max Schwabe, here with my co-host Chris Soba, who owes me $15, and our producer EPUP. And Chris is going to be like, wait, what?
Oh, you what? I owe you what?
That'd be hilarious. Let's see.
Okay, I just invited you guys to a Google Doc.
Dude, thanks for the invite, man.
Have that. Shut the fuck up. Have that up. Running.
So, I had quite the travel story of getting here to Bellingham, and it's not that far, right? But
no, it's not.
No. So, like, I decide, okay, I got a golf tournament tomorrow. We got this interview with Aaron at 8, right? I'm like, all right, this is my thought process yesterday. I was like, I think I should just get a hotel in Bellingham, not have to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning, make sure I get to Bellingham and have my Wi-Fi set up and all that, right? So I was like, I'm going to get a hotel. Go on to Priceline.com. I get my hotel and I find a steal, like a 4-star hotel. It was like $68 or something. $66 is what it was. And I was pretty pumped. And drive the whole way to Bellingham, hour and a half, 2 hours. I made a pit stop to get food, but right as I pull into the Bellingham sign and get off my exit, I get a call from Priceline.com, and I'm like, oh God. So I answer the call, and they're like, hey, we overbooked your room. You can't go to the hotel anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we overbooked it. That's like, we're sorry. And I was like, all right. They're like, do you want us to book you another room?
Sorry.
Yeah, right. Well, I was like, I'm not going to get mad, but they're like, do you want us to book you another room? I'm like, not really, because I don't want this to happen again. Can you just refund me? And they're like, yeah, we'll refund you. So they refunded me. I go and find a Super 8 motel. I don't know what it is. It's where I'm at right now. Inn. Yeah. But then I make my reservation online, and I get here like, I don't know, man, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm pretty damn tired. And like, I just want to get to sleep. And I get in here and the lady's like, are you sure you want to stay here tonight? And I'm like, excuse me? Like, this is the lady at the front desk. She goes, word for word, are you sure you want to stay here tonight? And I'm like, I don't know, am I? And she's like, well, we don't have hot water. And I'm like, it's like, okay. And then she's like, we don't have heat. And I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, this is like a $45 like hotel at this point. And I'm like, she's like, are you sure? She asked me again, like, are you sure you want to stay here? I'm like, I just don't want to go look around. Like, I just like, yeah, give me the card key, whatever. I was like, I'm fine with it. And cold shower, boys, cold shower. Let me tell you what, not what you want to get into in the morning. You're going to wake up real quick. I felt the live, awake, alert, and enthusiastic after that shower, though. I will tell you what, but man, I don't know. I have these travel stories and I just travel a lot. I don't travel a lot, but when I do travel, every time something goes awry. And this is what happened this time. And I'm just like,
see, when I travel and something goes awry, then feel like it's like the end of the world to me. But not actually.
You would like, hate traveling with me, man.
I bet I do. Well, you and I have gone on some road trips back, to Gonzaga.
Yeah, back in the day.
Pullman.
Okay, cool.
And for the most part, those went okay, but admittedly, we were
young. We didn't have control. Like Paul's dad was driving us.
You're right. Yeah.
So like, I went on a road trip right in the middle of quarantine, right when it first started. Safely, of course. And me and my buddy Jason from I worked with him at Enterprise. We went to California and went to Oregon and all that, and drove to Astoria our first night, and it was like, again, like 10 o'clock at night. It was pretty late. No, it wasn't late yet. So I'm sorry. It was near sunset, and I see a sign that says beach, and I'm driving this big ass rental car, and I honk the brakes and go to the right, and we end up going on this unpaved road, and like 10 minutes, and I'm like, this is kind of like, where are we? And all of a sudden we get to this opening, beautiful beach with water everywhere. The sunset's looking beautiful. And I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. And like, I'm in this big old rental car, Infiniti QX60 or whatever it is. And I'm like, pedal to the floor on the beach, baby. And I'm like, yes. And we get out, I park it, we get out. And then we just like, playing around. I have my dog running around. A couple hours pass. It's dark now. And we're like, let's leave. And the car was so far deep into the sand that it wasn't even close to ever getting out. And we tried and tried and tried. And I put it in reverse. We almost got it out, but then I stopped moving and it stayed stuck. And we had to call a tow truck and all this. The guy came. His name was Bob, and old dude. And he's towed our car out. And all of a sudden he goes, oh no. And I'm like, what's up, Bob? He goes, it's my anniversary tonight. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Bob, it's like 10 o'clock, man. And he's like, oh, my wife's going to hate me. And I'm like, dude, get out of here. Get out of here.
Damn.
Yeah, that was one thing that went awry on that travel trip.
Do you think that was his out though? Do you think he even has a wife or a partner?
Yeah, she answered the phone when we called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a business. So he'd been working with her all day.
Yeah. Okay.
And they never said happy anniversary, apparently.
Jesus,
until he got home at like 11 o'clock with an hour left. Better late than never.
Yeah.
Dude was awesome.
I don't have a wife yet, but
you don't?
No, not yet. Not even close,
me neither. Me neither.
I'm so far from having a wife. It's comical. But I was gonna say, is it really that hard to remember? It's like
dude, he was like 80. This guy was old.
Oh,
he was old, man.
Wow,
he was an old man. Good man though. A good old man.
Well, older the wiser.
Older the wiser, I guess. Yes.
Okay, so that was a nice little bit. Let's talk about like any other brainstorming ideas for what we're asking Goldy. So I'm gonna
what he's most excited about.
Sure.
And did you anybody actually? So I listened to the game on the radio last night as I was driving up. Goldy and Gary Hill were on it, and it was really funny. There was an inning that Mike Blowers was on that they had him in the booth, And this inning lasted so long. They ended up talking about python snakes. They ended up talking dude, this broadcast was hilarious. It was python snakes. Oh shoot, what else were they talking about? Chrissy.
Chris, are you logged into the Google Docs?
Not yet. Thank you. Reminder. And also, I'm going to be sitting next to Goldy, not like next to him, but I'm going to be sitting next to the booth on Friday. I'm going to the game on Friday.
You're going to opening day?
No, that's on Thursday. I'm going to the second game.
Oh.
Yeah, I got my buddy hit me up. Shout out Taylor. Shout out Taylor Dukes. Appreciate you, my guy. Can't wait to go. Let's go, Mariners.
I'm probably gonna.
We could ask him about
White Sox games or something.
We could ask him about Kelenic not making the team. I think that or
yeah,
because that's a pretty big togger.
Yeah,
for looking for some
I mean, I expected that to be the case.
Yeah.
To him not make the team. And like, okay, it's like what's the length of time that he needs to be in the minors for his arbitration year to like get another year? Like, it makes so much freaking sense from the Mariners side. It makes so much sense. It's a small snippet of time. And but then again, I totally makes sense with Jared's side as well. Like, Jared, he in my opinion, he played the best out of any of the other guys in spring training this year. I mean, the numbers, you just look at them and he did better. But it's like a month or a month and a half that if he were to not be in the majors this year, then we do get him for a full another year.
Yeah.
It's 2 months at most. But at the same time, I was having this conversation with myself, and at the same time, there's been a couple of years that the Mariners have been really close to the playoffs. Most significantly, I forget which year it was, but we were one game away. It was in like 16, maybe.
Yeah.
I want to say.
I remember that year. I think we were right behind the A's, and I
so
do remember
think about if that were to be the case this year again. If we somehow were one game out of it, would it have been worth to keep Jared down for those 2 months? Because I guarantee you, he would have impacted the game to help us win one more game, if not two, maybe three. I don't know. But you think about that, and it's tough to, and it's like, really, what are our goals here? Are we shooting for the playoffs? Like, are we? I think we are, and I think Jerry is too. And I see where he's coming from with wanting to keep for an extra year. It's just so much that makes sense on both sides. It's a really tough argument for either one. I feel
so. We've got our 32-man roster. Or is it 26?
It's 26. So we have not we haven't decided the 32, the 26. We're at 32, I think.
What the hell, man?
It makes sense. It's tough. It's tough. But then they had Justin Holiday. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Who's the assistant GM for the Mariners?
I don't know.
Justin Hollander. Justin Hollander. He was on the he was on the broadcast last night. So that's something we can ask Goldy. Like, hey, it's like, what's it? Walk us through the conversation you've had with Justin Hollander. I know you've talked a bit about him with who he's excited, as in, he's pumped about Julio and Jared, obviously, and Logan Gilbert. We're expecting to see Gilbert. I think actually after a month they're going to do their minor league spring training, and then that's for the month of April. Cool. And then in May he'll be up.
Okay, cool. Open up that Google Doc. Formulate the question. Right, if you guys don't mind, I'll open it up and say, like, what's keeping you busy? Are you in Peoria? And then okay. So I'm reading this little paragraph to your question, Evan. Upon graduation, Goldsmith began play-by-play broadcasting as an intern for the Gateway Grizzlies. The year was 2007. Goldsmith would provide 2 innings of play-by-play for each home game. Goldsmith would follow this up with an unpaid internship with the Bourne Braves.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Goldsmith would be allowed to call select games or innings during these stints. Goldsmith often found himself starving after calling games and realized he didn't even have $1 to his name.
Dang. Yeah, no, it's pretty much like being a broadcaster is almost like being a baseball player as far as getting to the big leagues, because you got to go through like the minor leagues, and it's a major grind. So that's so I'm sure I'll have some good stories.
Yeah.
Evan, are you also in a hotel?
La Quinta, yeah.
Nice hotel living. You and me, brother.
Love it. Yeah.
Got my golf bags ready to go, baby.
I know. I didn't bring my golf clubs, and now I totally regret it.
That's shocking. You fucked up, man.
I know. There's some nice courses along the ocean too. I'm fucking pissed.
Yeah, I'd be a little bummed out. Yikes. Could have done Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach is. Oh, they just opened a par 3 course that's supposedly extremely nice, and you could have played that.
Is that close to San Diego, Pebble Beach, or is it?
Nope.
I thought it was north.
Yep,
yeah.
Nope. I didn't know where you were.
I was thinking Torney Pines though is in San Diego.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty close.
Chris, want to open up that Google Doc?
That's what I'm doing right now. I was in the wrong one.
You motherfucker.
He is in Peoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about this? How's Peoria?
Yeah. So I think, you ask him, talk with him about what he's got going on. And then I'm going to just be like, hey, man, we are 5 days away from the best day of the year. How excited are we? What are you most looking forward to? Stuff like that.
And then, at some point we'll come back to like his upbringing, the situation. And then at that point, Evan, how's Peoria? What's been keeping you busy? 5 days away.
Evan, do you have that screen thing figured out?
Yeah, it's on. Does it? I have the 3 of us all on one screen, but maybe.
How do I look? Fantastic.
Always.
Beautiful. Okay, here he comes. Yeah, I'm gonna admit him into the room right now.
What's up, guys?
Mr. Goldsmith, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. How's Peoria? Looks nice.
Yeah, man. It's today's a good day. We've had some chilly temperatures recently, but today's shaping up to be a good one.
Yeah.
Are you guys all in Seattle?
I'm not. Normally I'm in Bellingham right now. I got a golf tournament right after this. And then Max, but normally I'm in Seattle with Max.
We're all born and raised from the area.
Yeah, I'm the producer, and I'm from Seattle, but I work at a news station in Las Vegas, so that's where I'm stationed right now. And I'm actually in Carlsbad, California this weekend, so just at a hotel room hanging out.
Okay, very cool. I've tried to get this set up with my microphone. Am I coming through clear?
You're coming through just fine.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Good.
Appreciate you making the time, Aaron.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for doing it early in the morning.
Yeah, our pleasure. What's been keeping you busy during the off season?
Boy, it was a quiet off season compared to normal ones. But we've got 3 little kids, so it has been a calm off season in terms of work, but it has been exhausting in terms of everything else. So we've never been more excited to get out to Peoria for spring training, just to get outside of our own house for the first time in forever. Like I'm sure everybody else would love to be able to do. So
yeah. We're in similar boats, my friend, but we're right around the corner from the best day of the year.
Yeah, you're right. It's coming up on us. It's coming up very shortly.
5 days. What are you most excited about, Aaron?
Well, I'm excited for fans, man. Like that's going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. I'm excited for fans. I'm excited for 162, which just means it feels normal. Like last year, even if there were some semblance of fans, it still wouldn't have been normal. No. We still were grateful, but it wasn't normal this year. To start with 9,000 and then have the great optimism that it will increase right as time goes on, hopefully over the course of the season, and to have a full season, all that stuff just makes it feel much more normal. We won't travel this year. We're going to do all the road games from T-Mobile Park still.
Okay.
I suppose there's an outside chance at the very end of the season that if things get infinitely better around the country, that maybe we will. But it's kind of like I'll take that concession. Park me at T-Mobile for 162. Just make it 162 and make it feel like the real thing. So. Yeah. It'll just be so good to get back into the groove and the routine and everything else that we're also used to, both broadcasters and fans alike.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I can't wait. I got tickets to. I didn't get them to open today. Unfortunately, my day job is I gotta go to that. But I got my tickets for Friday, and I think I'm going to be sitting very close to you, Aaron. I'm section 233,
okay.
Seat, like row 3 seat something. I don't know, but I was looking on the map and. I'm not sure where you guys are in terms of like center stage of the broadcasting booth, because I'm the farthest left is the one that I'm going to be next to. But I was like, oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So farthest left. So it's actually when T-Mobile was built, it was in an era where teams still actually valued the broadcast wing, and they put the broadcast wing in a good place, and they made the booths a very respectable size and in a good location, and there was like respect to the broadcast. Now a lot of new ballparks, you're on top of the ballpark. A lot of teams put the writing press, fortunately not broadcast, but the writing press like in a corner, like in Anaheim and in Chicago, the White Sox, that is, the press box is by the right field foul pole, if you can believe it, because they want to sell seats. They want to sell the premium seats like where the booths are.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, yeah, we're where you are, third base side. Is that what you mean? That left? Yeah. Okay. So that's like, we have probably 3 auxiliary booths that then lead, like the 4th booth from the left, I think it would be, is home radio. And then you go down further a few more booths down the row towards like first base. And that's where the root booth is. And then at the very end is like visiting TV, and then the control room, right? The brains of Mariners Vision and all that stuff. So it's a big broadcast wing. It's among the largest in the game, probably, just because the booths are actually larger than like a space capsule. They're great. Like we're totally spoiled. We're like, our booths are among the very best in terms of size, where they're located, how far off the field, the whole thing. So, but from a fan, like when my family comes to games, they always sit on the 200 level, and 200 is like, I mean, that's the sweet spot to take in the game, man. I'm glad you got those seats. That's awesome.
I am too.
Evan and I, from what I've gathered, Evan and I, tend chirping to the right of you. That's going to be Chris. He's a very vocal Mariners fan.
There was a game, actually, Aaron, that Dave was announcing, and I was at the game. Max was watching it at home on TV. This is a number of years ago. And Max texts me. He goes, dude, I swear to God, I can hear you from the TV. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here, Max, but David said like I something about hearing a fan in the stands. And then the camera just shifts to me, and I'm sitting there like arms in the air in my Mariners gear, decked out. Just, it was funny. And then Max texted me that photo. He's like, "You're on TV." I'm like, "Let's go."
Was that pre DVR days? Like, were you able to get a screenshot of this?
Yeah, I was able. Yeah, no, I was able to rewind it. But the camera pans over to Chris, and he's got all you can see is just him going like this, shouting.
I remember that moment specifically. We were like trying to do a rally to come back in the game, and I'm trying to get fans up on their feet, and somebody asked me to like sit down, and like I was like, I didn't get mad at them, but I was like, hey, come on, like we're just trying to get our boys, get some momentum here, like let's lift them up, like let's start chanting and start getting behind them, and like nobody was doing that, and that was just frustrating to me, because I'm like, as fans, we need to get up on our feet and try and get these guys and support them and whatnot, as it's the fans' job when we're there, right? But that's kind of why I was yelling at that moment, trying to get more people to
Chris
get
is
engaged.
The hype man of the group, Aaron.
Hey, every ballpark needs at least one.
Yes, I will gladly take that role. I love it.
So, Aaron, you let's see, you're born and raised, or I guess born in Wichita, correct?
That's right.
You grew up in St. Louis, a Cardinals fan. My understanding is, Jack Buck was the equivalent of our Dave Niehaus. Is that right?
Yes, in so many words. I mean, Jack Buck is, I suppose, to St. Louis what Dave is to Seattle. I would say this. It struck me pretty immediately that Dave, and this is no disrespect to Jack Buck, who's obviously a legend.
Sure.
I think Dave means like significantly more to Seattle than Jack means to St. Louis. And I've thought about it a lot. I especially thought about it a lot in my early years in Seattle. And to me, the reason's pretty clear. This is just my opinion, and people, thousands of other people in St. Louis could disagree, or Seattle. But to me, it's pretty clear, for, as we all know, for years. I mean, for really decades, probably. Dave was the Mariners. I mean, Dave is why you followed the Mariners.
Right.
And it wasn't because of the wins and losses. It was because of Dave. In St. Louis, they've been very fortunate. They've had a great history of winning and World Series in October, and we all know. And so Jack was a colossal part of that and the soundtrack of it, especially before TV became such a presence in our lives. But man, you were listening because Ozzie Smith was at shortstop. And so Jack was just kind of the cherry on top. At least that's kind of my feeling on it. Whereas Dave he was the 3 scoops of ice cream. He was the banana cut down lengthwise, the whipped cream and the cherry. He was the whole thing for so many times, so many years. And it really is hard for me to imagine a city that has a more profound love for a broadcaster than Seattle has for Dave. You can look at Detroit or Philadelphia and legends who have been there, and I'm sure they would take their guy, and they should, right? It's their guy.
Right.
Just like Seattle, we take Dave. But man, it's incredible. Like, it's something that we'll never see again. It's hard to imagine that radio will ever have the prominence it had when guys like Dave, in this case Jack as well, were at their heyday. So it was just like this incredible sequence of events. You have this epic broadcaster in his prime in Dave when radio is at its height, and here comes Griffey, right? I mean, you have Gary Hill and I have a conversation often, multiple times a year, about trying to find, over the course of baseball history, a broadcaster at his prime at an elite level and a superstar in his prime at the highest of heights, and you marry them together. And in that case, for Seattle, it was obviously Dave and Junior. And like, I don't know, you can rack your mind thinking about it, but it's really hard to think of superstar and icon, player and broadcaster at the height of their game simultaneously, like Dave and Junior was, and how much they complemented each other, right?
Yeah.
And it's incredible, the timing that worked out with that.
Well, I've never thought about that. That's a fun thing to think about.
Well, I mean, we as you might know, we've spoken with Dave Sims and we had Willie Bloomquist too, and that was kind of like the theme, right? It was around that time period that ultimately saved baseball in Seattle. It's just, you take those two ingredients and you marry them together, like you mentioned, and that's ultimately outside of the double, right? Like, it is fun to think about.
I listened to the broadcast last night, Aaron. On
oh, that's too bad.
No, man, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, because I mean, we had Flowers in the booth for one inning, and that inning just didn't end. And you guys talked about from pythons to, you guys talking from everything from A to Z. And I was dying. I was driving up to Bellingham, and I was having so much fun listening to it. And then hearing Justin Hollander come on as well. And every time he was on the inning, it was like almost a perfect game. It's the complete opposites from when Bauer was on. But how many times, like in I'm sure in the regular season it's a bit different, but in spring training, when you're in that broadcast booth, I mean, you guys, I'm sure, aren't planning for those discussions to come up, but when they do and you're just rolling with it, I mean, that's got to be kind of fun and keeping you on your toes while you're in the booth. Yeah,
I could talk to you for an hour about spring training broadcasts. It's funny. It goes back to a conversation I had when I was a AAA broadcaster in Rhode Island with the Red Sox AAA affiliate. I had lunch with a gentleman, a really good big league broadcaster named Dave Jagler, and he used to broadcast for the Paw Sox, the team I was with at the time. And he actually lives in Rhode Island, so he was nearby. And he's been on Nationals radio for a long time at this point. He's terrific, great pipes, great game call, great knowledge, the whole thing. And we were having lunch, and I'm like, I'm really green. I was in my sixth season in the minors, and I really didn't know anything, man. I was not particularly good, and I kind of knew it, and I kind of thought I was okay. I was in this really weird state of my career. And he told me something that I'll never forget, and I reference it. Gary and I talk about it at least a couple of times a year. He said, I've never had somebody come up to me and say, Dave, I love how you called that 2-run double with 2 outs down the line in the 6th inning. But I can't tell you how many times I've had people come up to me and say, Dave, when you and Charlie were talking about pythons in the clubhouse in that 10-0 game, I was howling on my drive home. So that's not to say that I go out of my way to find the ridiculous. But in spring training, man,
Yeah.
like there's almost 30 of these games, right? And my goal is to always think of the listener. Now, I'll preface this by saying something I say to myself often, and that is not everybody likes ice cream, which blows my mind that not everybody can like ice cream.
Yeah.
The point of it is, like, you'll never make everybody happy,
Yep.
right? Like, there'll always be a core group of people. In fact, when Gary and I were leaving the booth last night, I said to Gary, how many people do you think were listening tonight? And we're like, will these guys please just shut up?
I hope none, because like you said, I was howling on my way up here to Bellingham. I was like, I couldn't be listening to anything better.
But like, to me, the most important thing for a broadcaster of anything, and in our case, baseball, is to always think of the listener. And this is something that I really got from Eric Nadel, who's I was fortunate enough to spend a little bit of time around when I was the Rangers AA broadcaster in Dallas for a couple of years. Eric is the Hall of Fame voice of the Texas Rangers, and he was very kind to let me get to know him for those 2 years when we could. But one thing that he always preaches is always think of the listener. Always think of the listener, which sounds like the most basic advice for any broadcast. But it's amazing when you get in that booth and you put on that headset and you start talking and you start rattling off somebody's win and loss record and their earned run average in Jackson in 2018. Like, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
Is there a point to that? And sometimes there is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, sometimes as broadcasters, and I've fallen into this trap a million times, and I still fall into it, and I'll fall into it tomorrow, I'm sure. Like, we just say things to say things because that's what we're supposed to do, is say things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like for these spring games in particular, and you can make the same true of a regular season game if it's a blowout situation, either good or bad. It's like, you just can't call that game straight up. It's not a regular game.
Mm-hmm.
It's boring.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm bored, you're bored. If I'm bored, you're bored. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if I'm having a blast, you're having a blast.
Mhm.
Even if you're like, this guy is an idiot. You're at least having fun at my expense, which I'll take that 10 times out of 10. So, and with Blowers especially, Blowers and I, we hang out all the time. We get so many meals together. But he's like when he gets on the air, like, this is, we all know this, and Blow knows this, like, he's a pretty balls and strike straight-laced guy. When I can get Blow to laugh, especially at my expense, like, I've won. I have won. So these spring games on radio, Blow is like feet up, relaxing, no pressure. He can just laugh at me and Gary. And when we can drag Blow into our utter shenanigans, when Gary and I are like fist bumping every break, because it's it's a side of Blow that you don't normally get to see. Quite frankly, it's a side of me and Gary that you probably don't normally get to see, at least in such extended periods of time. And for me, not to talk too much about a one junkie spring training broadcast, but like, to me, last night was my perfect broadcast. I don't mean me personally in terms of what I said, but in terms of content. We spent one half inning, the top, talking about 20-foot pythons, Flowers riding a horse, and me riding a camel. And then in the bottom half of the inning,
Flowers not riding a horse.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
Him not riding. He'd never ridden one.
Which shocked me.
Yeah.
Shocked me because he owned horses, but he never got on one.
What?
Yeah. And then in the bottom half of the inning, we went like super nerd in depth on average and OPS in certain counts.
Mm-hmm.
And why certain hitters should be more aggressive early in counts so they don't fall behind, because these are the numbers when you fall behind 1-2 versus if you're ahead 3-1, right?
Right.
So like that was real baseball content. Like when we were reading those numbers and discussing it, like I was learning things. And if I'm learning things, almost undoubtedly you are learning things as well. And so I'm the loser and the nerd who can look stuff up and tell Mike the numbers. Like that's my value, right? It's minimal, but it's value. Blow can actually say, this is what it feels like when you have the helmet on and hold the bat. And let me tell you what it's like to look at those numbers and the results when you are in those counts. So it's like this great, it's the perfect play-by-play analyst relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just so happens that the inning before we were complete fools. So, yeah, like you can't normally do that during the 162 March of a regular season, but man, for spring training game, especially when there's like 3 left, to me, like I had a blast, and I hope that, I don't know what the appropriate approval rating is to say that you've won. Like, I don't know if that's like, if you get 51% of people who enjoyed it, you've won, or if you need more like 75, but I hope that more people enjoyed it than not. That's for sure.
Can you talk about like what's your preparation like for a Major League Baseball game? I know you got to do a lot of research, and growing up, like I was a huge Vince Scully fan. I love just hearing those stories he tell about baseball players. So as a broadcaster, how do you what's your preparation like going into that?
So it's really different. Like for a spring game, there's like almost none.
Totally.
We want, like, we know all the storylines on our guys. We've talked to all these guys over the winter. We've done so many video conference calls with these guys. And when they come in an appropriate time, like Gary and I spent an inning talking about Casey Sadler, because we had this great conversation with Casey Sadler over the winter, and he was fascinating and really a cool guy to talk to. And so we were excited to relay that. But for a spring game, we want to be really open to what's in front of us. And as a Mariners fan listening to a Cactus League baseball game, we assume that when we play the Brewers, like, man, you don't care about the Brewers' 6th outfielder. You don't care.
Nope.
You don't care. Like, I had a guy from another team, a broadcaster, come into our booth and was asking us all about our 6-man rotation. Like, who's it going to be? What's the order? Who's fighting out for the 6? And I told him. I told him, but I'm like, he left the room, and my opinion versus his. He could be right. I could be wrong, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, if I spent more than 10 seconds talking about fill in the blanks team's rotation to Mariners fans in Seattle, like, here's the 5th starter for any team. Like, man, you don't care. Like, you don't care. You want to know about your guys.
100%.
Game.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, Gary and I try so hard to watch the game, have it spark something, trust yourself without a safety net. You will find things to talk about, whether they be ridiculous, as we mentioned, or like super baseball nitty gritty. And Gary and I enjoy talking about both of those things equally. For a regular season game, it's different, right? Like, this counts. It's a real thing. We're wearing an actual shirt as opposed to like a Mariners hoodie. Like, this is like, it counts, man. This is real. And so my goal for a regular season Mariners game is I always want to come to the ballpark with something that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Like, if I come to the ballpark and all I'm going to do is read the game notes, I've failed. I mean, that's not thinking. It's not being curious, and it's not utilizing the tools that we have in today's world. I don't think there's a better time ever, like in the history of broadcasting, to be a baseball broadcaster than right now. Like, we are in the enlightened era. We're in, like, the dark ages was 10 years ago and before. Like, this is the Renaissance, man. Like, there are more websites that have more in-depth information than I have time in the day to navigate. And serve, right? Baseball Savant in the last 2-3 years has become insanely more detailed with greater depth, and more significantly more user friendly. Like I could not figure out how to use Savant like 4 years ago. I was in the weeds, and now
the Bible for you commentators, the Bible.
Well, so for me, the Bible is it was called the Play Index. Now it's Baseball Reference Stat Head.
Right.
Like to me, that was when I came to the majors in 2013. I had no idea about that. The Play Index was something I didn't even know it existed. Like that's not something that you would use in the minors, because obviously none of that stuff is for minor league baseball. And my eyes were open to it, and it became very clear to me immediately that there's not a single major league broadcaster who shouldn't know how to use now what's called Baseball's Reference Stat Head. I use it tirelessly during the day for my prep, and I hammer on that thing in game all the time. Like for people who there are many people listening who don't know what this is, and that's perfectly okay. They've raised the rate. It's now $80 a year. It used to be like $30. Even $80 is just this wholesale bargain. But if you ever wanted to know most strikeouts in a road game in April by a Mariners left-hander,
right,
it'll tell you. Right?
Hold on, how much is this?
It's now up to $80,
fellas.
I think they're making it even better. Like there's more detailed search, even more detailed searches. It was detailed enough as it was. It had some limitations, but not many. And so, like, for example, here's like a really simple version of it. It always boggled my mind that Nelson Cruz never had hit 3 home runs in a game. Now he did last year with the Twins. He had actually like a couple of them. But like when Nelson Cruz walks to the plate in the 8th inning and he's already homered twice, as a broadcaster, you want to be able to get in front of this. You don't want to just be reactionary to it. You want to be able to say, Nelson Cruz, the 8th active leader in home runs, probably more than that now.
Yeah.
Shockingly, has never hit 3 home runs in a game. He has 2 tonight. He bats here in the 8th. I mean, and now all of a sudden, you're like, all right, well, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah.
I just kind of got goosebumps because I felt like I was just watching you on TV with Nelson Cruz in the 8th. And I'm like, all right.
And so, like, that's what the stat head does is you can search easily Nelson Cruz, single games, 3 home runs or greater. Results, 0. Right. And if he had, let's say he had 4 games with 3 home runs, they would tell you what those games were. You could click on the box scores. You could see, oh my gosh, the starting pitcher of the last game where he hit 3 home runs is a starting pitcher tonight for the Astros. Like, it's incredible how intricate the weave can get sometimes when you just get down into the rabbit hole. So, like, that's a very simplistic example of an in-game prep. I guess it wouldn't be prep necessarily, but an in-game research from StatHead. But now Fangraphs is incredible. Not that it hasn't been, but maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, I've just gotten more immersed into it. It wasn't them, it was me, is a better way to put it. And now Baseball Reference is adopting more of the advanced stuff that you previously could only get on Fangraphs. Now they've incorporated the StatCast information as well. But I think the bottom line with all this stuff, because it's so overwhelming, right? I mean, you honestly could spend all day prepping for a game and still not feel like you've uncovered all the information. The important stuff for all this is you have to use it to tell a story.
Yeah.
Like if you don't use it to tell a story, then you're just a computer just spitting out numbers. And I feel like for some Mariners fans, I probably have this reputation of like, oh, Goldsmith is the numbers guy, which is fine. Like I enjoy that. So maybe I am. But what I hope people would find, and if they don't, I could be doing it wrong. What I hope people would find is that I really don't say that many numbers. Like, I don't rattle off when every hitter comes to the plate. Here's how many home runs he has. Here's what his batting average is. And when he drives in 2 runs, now he's got 28 RBIs. Like, I don't care if he's got 28 RBIs, man. Like, what does that mean? What does 28 RBIs mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Well,
I try to only use it to tell a story.
Absolutely.
And to show you why this is important, why it matters.
Yeah. And one of the things that to your point where you bring up some sort of, statistics like the Nelson Cruz example, right? It's for me and watching you, and part of what makes you and the rest, frankly, the rest of the Mariners, commentators and broadcasters so talented is, to your point about the Nelson Cruz statistic, right? Like what would scare me, what would rattle me as if I were in your shoes is I've got this breadth of information, numbers and statistics and whatnot. But to your point about the Nelson Cruz example, right? Like you now have, right, you lay in that fact in the bottom of the 8th inning, but now you have all your listeners and your viewers just glued to the screen, right? Versus, to your point, just throwing out numbers for the sake of throwing out numbers. And frankly, Chris, Evan, and I, we're new to the whole, podcast business here. So we're still trying to kind of massage these numbers that we're going to bring to the table, and we're to try and bring value to whatever statistics that the season will bring us, right? Because there's going to be a lot of numbers, and to your point, none of it means jack unless you're telling a story along with it. So, gentlemen, let's take notes.
I got to kind of segue from that, and from what I was listening on the interview you had, Aaron, last night with Justin in the booth, and he was talking about our 6-man rotation, talking about how he's like, if I had tried to bring in a 7th, Marco would come up here and kill me. But it's interesting because that's the way the game's moved, right? More towards a 6-man rotation, or it's moving that direction. And I'm curious, Aaron, and I might be wrong here, but the last time I checked, this was still correct. Are you familiar with who the last team in Major League Baseball, actually the only team in Major League Baseball from last time I checked, to only have 5 pitchers pitch the entire season?
Yeah, the Mariners did it.
2003, yes, sir.
And before that, it was the Dodgers in like 67 or something.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was looking at that. It was crazy. I mean, we had Jimmy Moyer, Joel Pineros, Gil Mesh. We had Freddie Garcia and Ryan Franklin.
Jeez,
yeah.
Wow. Gosh.
And that was the season, Max, 2003. We had 93 wins, I think, or something like that. And we just missed the playoffs because there weren't 2 wildcard teams yet. But
exactly,
it's crazy to think like that. When you think about it, I mean, it makes sense because injuries happen, right? New pitchers have to come in and take over, but that's probably something that we will never, ever, ever see again, is a 5-man rotation going from opening day to closing day. And that's kind of the direction that our management is taken. And it's like, they're really planning. And it's just great to see that they're really planning for injuries, because it's stuff that you can't control. And that's why we've got so many pitchers in our depth. And I think a lot of the fans, some are concerned about where our pitching is, but I think that's one of our strongest areas. And I'm kind of curious on your thoughts about that, Goldy.
Well, I don't know if the 6-man rotation will become mainstream at any point soon. I think it takes a certain situation for the 6-man rotation to become adopted and effective for a team. And I think the Mariners are in that sweet spot right now. There are teams like the Dodgers, right? I mean, they have like 4 aces. Yeah. You're not gonna tell Clayton Kershaw or Trevor Bauer or Walker Buehler or David Price that they're gonna get an extra day off between starts, and they're gonna go from ballpark at 32 starts to, let's say, 26 starts in a season. Like, they want to make their starts. For the Mariners, it was interesting that they went to the 6-man rotation a year before it really became imperative, and this year, simply because of the innings jump for everyone from a shortened season to a full season this year. And there will be more teams that go to a 6-man rotation this year, simply because guys can't throw, say, 65 innings in 2020 and then throw 190 innings in 2021. I mean, it's just not. The body can't take that. So you have to find a way to break these innings up. Now, maybe for a more seasoned veteran pitcher, that could be something that could happen. But especially for a young guy, I don't think you would do that. So as it turns out, this move for the Mariners came before they really, really needed it because they were planning on a 6-man rotation before the world was turned upside down last year. I think from the Mariners standpoint, they really firmly believe, Scott has talked about this with conviction, so has Jerry, that the extra day's rest gives their guys just a tick bump up in stuff, quality of stuff when they take the mound. And Scott has said that he does feel comfortable, for example, letting Marco go out there maybe for an inning longer than he normally would,
right?
Because he knows he's got the extra day. Now, I'll be very curious if the Mariners are in some type of playoff race in the final 30, 45 days of the season. Like, will they still have Marco throwing every 6 days, or will they find a way to bump him up and get him on more of a regular 5-day turn as opposed to a 6? I don't know. I mean, I don't think, even if Scott or Jerry knew that answer, I don't know if they'd say it, right? But it is something I've thought about. If they would do that, because Marco is obviously a premier pitcher in the American League, and you would want him on the mound as often as possible. While also this year in particular, because of the state of the world and last year's shortened season, wanting to protect him. So I don't know how. I don't think the Mariners are going to do a 6-man rotation forever.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's not going to be in the Servais Dipoto era from henceforth. It's a 6-man. But for right now, given the young arms that they have in particular, yeah, this is a really good idea, and it proved to be last year. I thought the rotation last year for the Mariners, I think we overlooked this often. It could have been really sideways, man. I mean, you think about, you had Taiwan coming off of Tommy John, Kendall coming off Tommy John, Yusei coming off a rough season, Sheffield, Dunn, just pups, just babies, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at all those factors and how easily that rotation could have gotten off the rails. Obviously, Graveman had the injury, but beyond that, I mean, the rotation was maybe sneaky good last year, when I think it was overlooked, I guess is the point. And we saw a lot of steps forward from guys. Sheffield in particular comes to mind. So I think the rotation has a chance to certainly be better this year. All those guys have an extra, I guess I can't say an extra year of experience, but they have an extra 10 starts worth of experience from last year.
And that matters.
And
right?
100%.
Yeah, and you had Paxton, who's obviously, when he's been healthy, he's been among the game's elite lefties. So, and Marco only gets better every year. It's incredible. So I think between the rotation and the bullpen having to be better, just because of the names that have been added, I think the pitching should be a significant increase over a season ago.
Hey, Aaron, I just want to go back to your broadcasting career, and just want to, so I worked, I'm from the Murrow College, or I went to Washington State, and I've been around a lot of broadcasters, and they talk about that journey going through the minor leagues and how it's more than just broadcasting. I feel like you got to also help out with the team and all that. Can you just talk about your grind to the major leagues and just give some advice to maybe any up and coming broadcasters that want to get to your position? What's the journey like?
Absolutely. It was a long 6 years, although 6 years is way shorter than I would have ever imagined, man. Like, I was prepared to spend as much time as I had to in the minors to get to the majors. If that meant 10 years or 20 years, I didn't really ever have an end date on it, but I was really determined to hopefully get to the majors one day. But my journey was really unconventional in some ways. I did not broadcast in college. I was a history major. I had no idea that radio broadcasting was something that I ever wanted to do until, honestly, a month before I graduated college. And at that point, it was a little late. And so I graduated with a history degree. I moved in with my parents, which was awesome. And I got a retail job, and I went to a trade school in St. Louis called the Broadcast Center, which is like, you go to a trade school to learn how to be a carpenter. I went to a trade school to learn how to be a broadcaster, and it was a 9-month program, worked at your own pace, and it was a school for DJs primarily. Like, there was no play-by-play at all. It was all radio production, so making commercials, voicing commercials, all the gear all the computer software you use for that. and DJing. Basically, there's a little bit of learning how to read and write the news for radio.
Hmm.
But so I did that for 9 months while working a retail job, and my advisor really encouraged me to audition or make a demo for an independent league baseball team that had a play-by-play internship available right around the time I was scheduled to graduate. And believe it or not, when I went to the broadcast center, my heart was set on being a sports talk show host. Like I had no intention of play-by-play. I hadn't even thought of it. And my advisor, who I liked very much, was just banging me over the head like every week. Like, man, you gotta go make a demo. Just try this out. Make a demo. Just try play-by-play and just apply for the job. And even if by a miracle you get it, you can always say no. And so from the broadcast center, I got a tape deck and a stick microphone. And I went back to my alma mater that I just graduated from in college, which is a little D3 school in Illinois. And on the weekends, they would have men's and women's basketball doubleheaders. And so I called 2 basketball games on back-to-back weekends, 4 games total, into this tape deck. And the Gateway Grizzlies, the name of the independent league baseball team that was trying to find an intern, all they wanted were 5 minutes of uninterrupted play-by-play. Like that was the demo they wanted. It took me 4 college basketball games to get 5 minutes of uninterrupted play-by-play that weren't utterly horrific. What I eventually sent them was the farthest thing from good, but it was not like a nuclear test site, which is what most of my play-by-play was. I mean, I'd never done it. I had no idea what was going on. I was just doing what I heard guys on TV and the radio do. And so another great thing was, like, there was no way I was going to take the time to memorize the names and numbers of the players. I mean, give me a break, man. I'm just making this stupid demo. I'm not going to take this job. I'm not even going to get this job. And so the visiting team, like I knew all the players from my team because I knew a lot of these kids. I was just in school 6 months ago. But all the names for the visiting teams, I just made up. And so like my wife's maiden name is Harmon. We were dating at the time. And so like the best player on every team was always Harmon.
Oh my God.
And like the other names of the players were like buddies that I'd seen that day coming back on campus. And so like I was like my identification skills were like a 10 out of 10 because I just made it all up. And I'm like, whoever's listening to this tape, they're not going to look this game up. They don't know. And so I sent this cassette. I mailed a cassette tape to the Gateway Grizzlies in 2007. And I mean, I'm convinced to this day, and you can never not convince me, that I was the only person who applied for this job. Like, for real. They called me in for an in-person interview, and they offered me the job right there. And I was I'm like, what? And I was becoming more and more aware how hard it was to find a sports talk show host job. Like, this is really hard. And like, there's no way I was going to get one in St. Louis. It's not a massive market, but it's not a small market by any means. And I'm a Yahoo. They're not going to let me on the air. And so thinking about like going to be a talk show host in like some podunk town in Michigan, it's like, I don't know anything about the Lions or the Wolverines or the Red Wings or the Tigers. Yeah. Like, I just have the most basic surface level knowledge of any of those. Like, they're not gonna let me on the air. I don't know anything. Yeah. So I was like, man, this actually might be, that's the best I can do. and so they said they would pay me $70 a month to be the intern for the Gateway Grizzlies. And I was utterly floored that they were going to pay me even $1. I'm like, did you hear my demo? And so they paid me $70 a month, which is like the most comical amount of money for any job. And I called 2 innings a night for home games only. I didn't travel when the team was on the road. Like, I did nothing. I worked a retail job still, and I lived with my parents. And that's how I got started. And I was so bad. I mean, I was so bad. I remember my first home run call. I had no idea what to say. I'd never called a home run before. And I'm on live radio of actual professional baseball. And I remember like the home run was like close to a no doubter. And I was like, here's the pitch. And you hear the crack of the bat. And then you could tell immediately, like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to fly over the fence. And I got so tongue tied. I just watched. And then once it went over the wall, I was like, it's a home run. I had no idea what to say.
Well,
it was so bad.
Goldy, from a fan's perspective, I was about to say earlier that one of my favorite things about listening to you is when a home run is hit, you're all about it. You're jumping out. It's like sounds like you're out of your seat.
It sounds like you kind of turned the tables on your reaction to a home run, because when a home run is even in a hint, I mean, the voice, it rises, the tone, it rises, it's going. So at the very least, you've been able to absolutely master that initial kind of
man, it's come
reaction.
Along. It's come along.
Right?
I had another game that season where, keep in mind, there were no broadcast booths. It was one huge open air press box. So like our broadcast, the voice of the Grizzlies, Joe, who's fantastic, he and I sat on one end of the broadcast of the press box, and then the visiting radio sat all the way at the other end. And like I sat next to the official scorer. Like there was no privacy. Like people could hear our calls, for better or worse. And by the time I got on the air for the first time one night in like the 6th inning, we were losing like 14-0, man. And I was so tuned out of that game. It was so boring and awful. And this game's a dog, and just end it, shoot it in the head now, right? And we had this little second baseman, like tiny, like he couldn't hit a home run if he tried. And he hit a fly ball to center field, and he really tagged it. And I just like lost my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm thinking like, this is a home run. Like he just hit a home run. This is incredible. Not understanding that even if he had hit a home run, man, like who cares? It's 14-1. Like doesn't matter.
Right.
And I just start like getting out of my seat, like ecstatic, like huge call. Dude, it was caught like 10 feet in front of the warning track. Like I've called it a home run. Like I've said it's gone. And then like everybody in the press box is like turning their head and looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And so I'm like joking, but I'm not joking, but I'm definitely joking. I blame the lights. I'm like, oh man, I lost that one in the lights somehow. And the worst part was, I got so loud on this home run call that the broadcaster for the other team on the other side of the press box heard me and started making fun of me on his broadcast. I mean, amazing.
No
incredible.
Way.
So like that was Goldsmith 1.0 the broadcaster, man. It's a miracle that I ever got out of Gateway Grizzlies. But the first 3 years were really hard. I was an intern at 3 different teams in 3 different states in 3 different years. I went from indie ball to the Cape League. So I went from $70 a month to pro bono, did not get paid in the Cape. I got a landscaping job on Craigslist. I lived with now my wife, at the time my girlfriend. Her grandmother lived on the Cape. I slept on her couch. I did my prep at the local Yarmouth Dentist Library, and we called our games over Skype. I mean, it was like the most jerry-rigged by hook and crook. I drove from St. Louis to Cape Cod and went in massive debt so I could call games over Skype. But wow. I needed innings, right? I mean, listen to me. I needed innings. And then in 2009, my 3rd year, I was an intern for the Red Sox AA team in Maine. And it was like the best summer of my life, man. I had an incredible broadcast partner, the voice of the Sea Dogs, named Mike Antonellis, who took me under his wing and taught me so much. And it was like, I felt like I was in the big leagues. Like I was in a AA ballpark around like prospects. Like I'd never been around prospects before. And it was incredible. Like I remember like every day I'm like, this is my big leagues, which is one of my biggest takeaways from the minors, is that it doesn't matter where you are. When you climb up a level, man, that's your big leagues. Like when I took the mic the first time in Cape Cod, and we literally dialed in over Skype, and we heard the beep boop beep boop beep boop beep boop connected, and like that's when I started talking. Like that was the first time I was ever a lead guy, and that was my big leagues. Yeah. Like I felt like, man, this is like I've got responsibility right now. Yeah. And if I had not, after my season in 2009, Heather and I had been dating. Like, this is when like life takes over. We've been dating for like 4 years at that point, and we were ready to get married. And I had went into a lot of debt, driving all over the country, making no money, trying to survive and chase a dream. And I told her that if I did not get a full-time play-by-play job that off season going into the 2010 season, that I'd give it up. Like, I had a backup plan for an actual career. I was going to be an appliance salesman, which I had done while in broadcasting school and actually enjoyed it. My name tag said appliance Aaron, and we still have it to this day.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna do. Like, I could make way better money than I made calling baseball. I mean, I lost money calling baseball, and we could get married and start an actual life together. And at the time, that winter going into 2010, I was an assistant JV basketball coach, and I was a professional dog walker, which was a job that I got on Craigslist. And I was walking a dog on a really cold winter day in St. Louis when I got a phone call saying that the Frisco Rough Riders wanted to hire me to be their lead broadcaster and their PR guy, full-time job. And I mean, I was like, I could not believe it.
That's
I could not believe it.
That's amazing.
I popped the question to Heather, like, I don't know, weeks later. I moved out to Dallas. We got married 6 months later. She moved out to Dallas after she wrapped up her job. We were in Dallas for 2 years. And I remember saying to Heather, like, hey, you've been with me from the start of all this, from like the Gateway Grizzlies and me not knowing how to call a home run to right now. And I said, we're going to be here in AA for probably like 10 years. I said, are you ready for that? And she's the greatest. And she's like, yes, I can do 10 years here. And I said, okay, because then I'm going to get a AAA job and we're going to be there for like 10 or 15 years. I said, it's going to I said, if this thing ever pans out, like, I remember this conversation with her over dinner one night. If this thing pans out, we're talking like best case scenario, probably like 20 years until we're in the big leagues.
Wow.
And like, we're not going to, like, Heather was always the breadwinner. And while I was in the minors, I mean, you just don't make much money. And obviously you're gone a lot. You're on the bus. The travel stinks. She's without a husband for 6 months out of the year, because even when we're home, I got to be at the ballpark, typing up game notes and press releases and doing all that stuff. And she said, yeah, I can do that. Yep. And we were in Dallas for 2 years. And then the Pawtucket Red Sox job opened up, which is like the holy grail of minor league broadcasting. It's hard to explain why, other than they've just hired good people. But the Paw Sox have had, I don't know what the updated number is, but like 8, maybe 10 guys go from Pawtucket to the big leagues. They've actually had 2 guys go from Pawtucket to the NFL for the local NFL radio booths. And my wife is from Boston. And so when the Paw Sox job opened up, it was like, well, I have to apply for this for like 2 very obvious reasons. And so, but I knew I wasn't going to get it. And I applied. And as it turned out, the winter meetings that year were in Dallas, where we lived, which was just like this incredible, all the worlds aligning. So I interviewed for the job in person in Dallas, and like knocked me over with a feather when they called and said that they wanted to hire me. I could not believe it. And so we packed up and we moved to Rhode Island after 2 years in Dallas. And after my first year in Pawtucket, which was, again, that was my big leagues. That was for sure my big leagues. Like, I was over the moon. Like, this is the coolest, man. Like, they had like a 10 station radio network in like 3 different states. Like, it was a big deal in minor league baseball to be the voice of the Paw Sox. And after that season, my first year in 2012, the Mariners opened up. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm getting this job. But when you're a AAA broadcaster, I mean, you apply for big league jobs because on paper, you're one notch below. In reality, you're like 10,000 leagues under the sea. But in reality, you know, on paper, you're one notch below. So I sent my stuff in, and I remember, you know, the Mariners, you know, they get like, who knows how many guys applying for this thing, right? Like, well over 100, of course. And I knew I had no chance. I'd only been a league guy for 3 years. 3 years I've been a league guy. I've been in the minors for 6. And I sent my CD in and all the normal material, and I get an email from them a couple of weeks later. And the email said in a much more eloquent way, "Dear Aaron, we have made two piles, a pile of broadcasters who we think stink and a pile of broadcasters who we think don't stink. Congratulations. You've made the pile that doesn't stink.
Outstanding.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch when the next round begins." And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? A major league team thinks that I don't stink. Like, Heather and I got in the car that night, man. We went out to Applebee's. We got 2 for $20.
Yes.
Like, we both got a drink. Like, we both got like an iced tea instead of water. I mean, like, we got double dessert. I mean, like, for my money, they basically just hired me, even though they weren't even close to hiring me. But a big league team thought that I wasn't like the worst. I never gotten that kind of feedback from obviously a major league team. I never applied to a big league job before.
Yeah.
And so I was on top of the world. I still knew I wasn't going to get the job, but it was like, it made me feel so incredible. And then I got another email saying, "We want to talk to you on the phone." And I was like, "What? No, come on, man." And we talked on the phone. And then I got an email saying, "We want to meet you in person. When can you fly out to Seattle?" And at that point, it's like, oh man, things are real. Like, this is, man, I might actually have a shot at this.
Right.
And that's when I started to get really nervous. And I will forever be indebted a gentleman named Randy Adamak, who is now like semi-retired. He's been with the Mariners since almost day one with the club. And he's one of the most well-respected PR men in baseball. Randy was my boss for my first probably like 5 years with the Mariners. He's the one who hired me. And it's a crazy life thing, man. It just goes to show you, like, it was more than just Randy who made the decision, obviously, but Randy was like the point guy. But like, Randy changed my life. And we changed the life for my wife, for now my kids. We didn't have any kids at the time. Now we have 3. I mean, like, if they didn't say yes to me, there's like almost a 100% chance that I'm still in the minors. It seems like, oh, if you get a big league job, then that means that you get a big league job the next year or the year after that. If one guy would hire you, then they'd all hire you. No, not at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, if 8 teams opened up that year, 8 different guys could have been hired, and none of the 8 teams might have wanted the same guy. It's like, which do you like better, strawberry or chocolate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much personal preference and the vibe you get from somebody. And I mean, we love Seattle. We've started a family there. We purchased a home there. We got kids in school. I'm an Alaska MVP 75 gold member now.
Yes, sir.
Like, I just, like, I get really emotional thinking about it, because we would almost certainly still be in Pawtucket and just scraping by, calling AAA baseball, which AAA baseball is incredible, man. Like, you get to still live out a dream. There are a million men and women who would give anything to call AAA baseball, but I can tell you, it's nothing like calling Major League Baseball and connecting with the fan base and connecting with the city and all the obvious things that go along with that. So, Randy, the Mariners changed our life, and we'll never forget that.
Well, Appliance Aaron, I got to say, you're really great at what you do. That's for sure. Evan, Chris, and I all think the same. So
100%.
Yeah.
And Aaron, really, really appreciate you. And I know we've taken up a bit of your time. I had one last question. You brought up Trevor Bauer earlier, and his comments after he gave up 3 dingers to us in the inning, and he brushed him aside, saying he wasn't trying or whatnot. And then Scott Servais coming out saying, "Oh yeah, our guys didn't start trying until the 5th inning," just talking some smack back to Bauer. And that's something I haven't really seen from Scott doing, and in terms of being that kind of throwing some shade towards another player and being a bit more aggressive in that aspect. What were your reactions to those comments?
I thought everything about it was incredible. Like, I loved every element of it.
Yes.
If I was a Mariners player, I would maybe take some offense to what Bauer said, right?
I took offense to it when I heard it.
Absolutely.
But we need Trevor Bauer. We need more
100%.
Trevor Bauers.
Yeah.
Like, don't dislike the guy because he comes across like wildly different, you know?
Mhm.
He is so good for the game, not only because he's one of the most dominant starting pitchers in the game, but because he's just so different, man. Like baseball, which is the thing I love the most outside of my immediate family. I mean, baseball has become, unfortunately, like really the same. Like every team is doing it the same way. Every pitcher tries to do it the same way. It's like, it's just kind of the state that we're in right now. And obviously, Major League Baseball is taking experimental steps this year in the minor leagues to shake it up and see if things can change and we can have the game look a little bit different, which I'm all for a lot of those measures and I'm really excited for them. But like, we need villains.
Yes.
Like, I'm kind of mad that Harper isn't as much of a villain as he was.
Yeah.
Like, remember, like Harper like kicked the painted A of the Braves behind home plate one time as he was walking around. Like, it was a long time ago. A lot of people probably remember it. He kind of like kicked it with his foot, and it was amazing. Like, it was so great, man. Like, I'm not the Braves. I'm not the one who got offended by it, so I think it's great. But like, you know, guys do that in the NFL, and they stomp on the logo. Baker Mayfield plants a flag at midfield, you know, in college, and NBA's talking smack, like, and now you've got like Syndergaard tweeting to Bauer like every other day about, you know, terrible. Like, it's a little bit of a sideshow element, but man, just like a radio broadcast, all this is entertainment. Like, baseball's entertainment.
Yeah,
it's 100% entertainment. Now, for Mitch Haniger and Kyle Seager and Marco Gonzalez, it's their career, it's their livelihood,
right?
It's their career. But there's a massive entertainment element to it and value. And so, as long as Trevor Bauer's not hurting anybody, man, when I read when I was on TV with Blow that night, when Bauer said that, and I saw the tweet come across, and I was so excited to read it to Blow on air, because it's like, and Blow was great with it. He had fun with it too. But it's like, man, this is fun. This is so much fun. And Scott's response to it made it even more fun. It was phenomenal. Like, to have a major league manager having fun at the reigning Cy Young Award winner, give me more. Like, give me all that. Give me a double feature, man. I want that all day long. It's great. That's
exactly why I love that, because I am fully on board with you saying we need guys like Trevor Bauer in the league. In the NBA, it's always tweets like, oh, this league, like, people love it because stuff goes down. And without Trevor Bauer making those comments, we wouldn't have been able to see that side of Scott having our teams back and throwing some shade back. And it's just, from our perspective as fans, we're just like, this is what we want to see. Right. And like, it just shows his personality, a side of it that we haven't seen before. And so I love having Trevor Bauer talk that smack. And then it just opens up the door for people to talk smack back. And that's, and it opens up,
it opens up the door too for us to build, you know, to light, ignite a flame, right? Which at the end of the day, this is why we're all watching the Mariners, and this is why we've watched the Mariners since we were tykes, right? It's we want the Mariners to succeed, and frankly, if this kind of situation is what, you know, lights a fire under their asses, I mean, let's do it. Let's roll with it.
Put more wood on the fire. Let's get it going.
Yeah, and there's no, I don't know if this is nobody's fault, but there aren't many rivalries in baseball, right? And they're the obvious ones, but the majority of teams don't have a rival. Yeah, that's the way it is. And so, not that Trevor Bauer is suddenly a rival, but I'm not advocating anybody getting hurt or anybody doing anything that's obviously wrong. But just any of that stuff that sparks a flame, sparks some type of interest, and gives a little more juice and sizzle to, you know, game 72 out of 162. Hey, man, have fun with it. Let's do it. You know, like it's great. There's baseball has so many incredible things going for it. We are in this golden era of just young, young megawatt superstars in both leagues. And they're so great. And the more of the personality that we can see from those guys, and it doesn't have to be abrasive, but the more personality we can see, the better. And that's one thing that Scott has been so great at from day one is, mean, he lets his guys be him. Like, my kids aren't totally old enough to use this advice, but I remember what he said about his players. Like, if you don't roll with them, they're going to roll without you or roll against you. And when he said that, my kids were really young. They're still pretty young. And I was like, man, that's like great dad advice. Like, I'm going to remember that. And so he's all for it, which is great. And I think we saw that last year with, all the social injustice that we saw around the country, and how it was so picked up, and so many Mariners players carried that torch. And Scott was right there, letting his guys be him and supporting him and backing him up. And so
absolutely,
it's cool that the Mariners front man is so into that. And we know there are guys on the team right now, and there are guys who will be on the team, whether it be at some point this year or down the road, that have got big personalities. And I can't wait for all those guys to come together in one clubhouse.
Well, Goldy, we've gone just over an hour. We really appreciate your time, and do us a favor, enjoy the rest of your time in Arizona. But goddamn, we are so excited to have you back in Seattle for 162 games. Take care of yourself, and you're great at what you do, my friend.
I'll try saying hi to you, Goldy, when I'm sitting next to you Friday night.
Please do. Well, thank you guys for all your kind words and for having me on. It's always great to talk about the Mariners and broadcasting. And kudos to you guys for getting a podcast off the ground and making it happen, man. That's very cool. All the best with you guys, both in your personal lives and also with the podcast.
Thanks, Goldy.
Awesome. Thank you.
You as well, Aaron.
That was awesome.
Dude, that was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
We got him to cry.
You cried?
Yeah, because it's such a
you
grind
didn't see
going
that?
through that.
No, you didn't see him like at the end of that long ass answer. He was like going like this, like he was like.
I'll rewatch it. I must have been looking at the other screen at that time.
No,
yeah,
like,
he was really emotional after that. For sure.
Evan, that's you, boy.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dude, I knew because that's going through the Monroe College, baby. I know the grind. I know the grind.
I remember that class we took together. We had that guy come in.
Brandon, exactly.
Yes,
yeah. That's where I got it. That's where I was thinking. I was like, they do go through, because and it's just something different than for the previous episodes, and nobody knows that. Like, the guy was almost a salesman. I didn't know that shit. Like,
no fucking clue.
It was so cool hearing him talk about as well how that he was like, him and his wife were right at that point where he was like, all right, well,
they're about to quit. They're about to quit.
And then for her to just still want to be with him after that, like, he was telling him like, hey, like, it might take like 20 years for us to get to the big leagues, and for her to stay like, I still want to be with you, like,
beautiful. That's poetry. That's poetic right there, baby. Oh, what an interview. What a guy. And this is cool shit.
I like just listening to these guys, their story, right? Like, we could have asked this about Dave, and I'm sure he has a similar yet different situation, but man, like, that guy just Goldy just was an open book. And I couldn't agree more. Like, the story about his family and his wife, like, sticking around with him, like, that's just beautiful. So next week we have our first official baseball game, which means, what does that mean, Chris? We're intentionally not bringing on a new guest because we're anticipating having plenty to talk about. Am I right?
Correct. We're not going to have a guest next week, and we're excited for it. Every episode so far, we've had a guest, and we have loved every single one of them. But this is going to be the first episode. It's going to be us three running with it, and we're going to have a fun segment, fun piece, and introducing each of the players, giving information, little tidbits of who they are, fun facts about them. We'll keep it interesting. But once we have that full 26-man roster, we'll be able to deliver that to you guys, and we're excited for
that. Do you think we're going to bring back questions from the dugouts?
Yeah, let's do questions for the dugout this week. We'll put a couple posts out on the story. And I know we gave you shouts out earlier, people from across the pond in the UK and in Germany. If you guys got some questions, we would love to get your thoughts, and also just kind of little bit, if you guys do hear this, I really am curious to hear how you're Manor fans, and if you're Manor fans, and how you came across Monday Mojo, because seeing listeners that far away in the UK and in Germany is crazy. And then also we've got listeners in Alabama and Florida. I mean, if you guys hear this too, same thing. Let us know why you're listening. We're curious. We love that you are, but it's just kind of, I'm curious about it. I love it. And it's pretty cool. But well,
guys and gals, thanks for listening to another episode. Congratulations on making it through the off season. Baseball is back, and it's back for 162 games. Give us a follow. Tell your friends about us. Monday Mojo, Spotify, Instagram. You guys are smart enough. You'll find it.